Welcome back to the Injector's Business Blueprint, the show where we talk about what it actually takes to run a med spa. You know, beyond cute scrubs and Instagram reels.
I'm Brandon, Injector, Medspa founder, and yes, I still actually see patients. Wild, right?
And I'm Erin, business coach for med spa owners who are tired of guessing their way through growth. I've done it all, leading teams and running spas around the world, fixing all kinds of disasters. Now, I just help you avoid them.
If you're here for fluff, feel-good quotes, or business advice from someone who hasn't held a syringe since Botox was new, you're in the wrong place.
We're pulling back the curtain, pouring a metaphorical glass of wine, and talking real business strategy, real team drama, and how to actually build a business that doesn't break you. Let's get into it.
Well, Erin, it's been a minute since we have been recording anything, hasn't it?
It has been a minute. We recorded several podcasts in, I think it was Q4 last year.
Yeah. And I think that we learned a valuable lesson in the first couple of episodes of the Injector's Business Blueprint. I think primarily was there are always relationships that you have to evaluate that benefit risk ratio, even when you're just doing podcasts, right?
100%. We definitely, even though we only recorded I think 5 episodes, our learning curve was a very strict 90 degrees. It was straight and around the corner all the way up, or should we say down?
I would liken it to a rocket that went into the sky and then something happened and it just went back down to earth. But that's okay. We thought that we were going to save some time and effort in working with a marketing company to kind of help us produce this show. And let's just say the expectations were not met.
Yeah, not even close. I think it gave us a lot of insight into what we do every day as business owners and how we want to share those lessons with you guys, because for us, not only was it exciting and then super disappointing, it was also how do we get our momentum back? Because it took a while, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I think that we learned some lessons for sure. We're going to take our reins back with the production and editing. And, I just don't think that we were meant to be scripted people. It's really not possible. We tried to make it authentic working with the company. And I think just picking topics that are current and most relevant to us and just putting our own stamp on it is the way to go. And we'll continue to utilize technology to help run businesses, but also to help get this podcast out. And I think that we'll be just fine by ourselves.
Yeah, I think okay. So we're definitely not meant to be scripted. I know both of us are so much better when we riff on a topic or we just share the real shit that happens to us. Mm-hmm. And that's why in this episode coming back, we just want to share with you guys what we learned and just be real about it, because, we all have dreams and aspirations and goals. And when things are new and exciting, you could have a ton of momentum behind that. You have a lot of energy. And when it doesn't work out, you're you kind of have 2 options where you're okay, that was so disappointing and I failed so bad, or it just really went left, and you can kind of just give up and go, you know what, that's not meant for me. Or if it's something that's really in your mind's eye that you thought you wanted to do and it's possible, or you wanted to have some kind of impact, it's really, how do you get back into the momentum even after things didn't really go the way that you had hoped, or not even close to the way that you wanted them to go?
100%. But with everything else that has happened in my life, and I'm sure that you can attest and agree to this, everything happens for a reason. So not only did we have a big fail with working with a marketing company, but we had a lot of life going on in the past 6-7 months anyway. So, we're both kind of in different places geographically and I think theoretically. So why don't you spill your tea first?
Yeah. So when we first recorded, I had just gotten married for the second time and was moving through all the paperwork and the lawyers and all the things, hoop jumping to relocate to the US. So that was something at the time I wasn't sharing with anyone. So the amount of stress I was under while still trying to run my business and show up, for all of my clients and show up as a new wife and a new stepmom and run my business and be there for my team. Like all the things that you guys have to juggle, like it's real. And now I have relocated to a new country. I'm, 8 months into my new marriage and settling into a new home and all of that. And now have like a totally different injection of energy because I'm no longer in like dark, gloomy winter Toronto. I'm now in sunny Florida and just really starting over, but in a really great way. So yeah, of course it comes with challenges, but I feel so much more energy where I'm at now and a lot of insights to share with you guys.
Absolutely. And I think we just didn't know how low your vitamin D was until we got your ass in Florida. So, welcome to the United States. Enjoy all of our taxes and shitty healthcare. You're welcome.
There's actually less so far based on what my accountant says.
Oh, good. Well, then you're welcome.
Also why I chose Florida, but yeah.
Absolutely. Well, then, okay, welcome to Florida. Sorry, you're going to learn that like that phrase, it only happens in Florida or it's a Florida thing. That's why it's on t-shirts because a lot of crazy things are on the news. So you won't be a likely suspect in any of those activities, but it's always good fuel for fodder. So I'm so glad that you are like out of the basement. Your office, if you guys can see us now, if you're watching on YouTube, it's nice and bright. You're not, I don't see the rafters above you. You have an office. That's amazing. It looks like you have some inspiration behind you on the wall, which I love. So that's great.
Yeah, I'll have to share that in an Instagram post. It was a special piece that I had made for anyone who follows Maya Angelou's work. So she's an author and poet, beyond many other things, but I actually had this made. My uncle does, he creates and sells art. And so I actually had this framed, which is her poem called Phenomenal Woman. And it's just to remind myself not to live small and not to hold back, to step in to all of my power that makes me a phenomenal woman.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's a daily reminder, but not only did I have a gazillion changes in my life, you had a major change. So update everyone on where you're at now.
Just a little bit. So I went from the practice manager role for a very successful chain of I shouldn't say chain of med spas, but a 3-location med spa that my friend Ashley Carmen owned, and I am now in the med spa founder seat and switched roles to being injector. So not only do I get to be my own practice manager, I get to be owner and also really ramping up my injecting skills. One fun fact that I really didn't share with a lot of people because I focused on the business aspect of my role with my friend's med spas was that I've been injecting tox for years. It just wasn't really the first and primary role that I kind of served in. So I kind of like kept that on the DL, but now that I have an opportunity in my hometown of Greensburg, PA, I opened MPWR or Empower Aesthetics and Wellness in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. I definitely am a masochist and I like pain. Kidding, kind of.
I feel like that's part of entrepreneurship, right? Like you have to be a certain kind of crazy.
Yep. And I'm definitely subscribing to that certain kind of crazy. I like it. I've shared it. I do all the things, but it's been a wild roller coaster over the past couple months. We kind of did like a soft launch in January and officially opened in February, but definitely going to inflect a different energy into this podcast and just how I continue on into my 40s. Also, I turned 40 last month, so there's that.
Yay, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Okay, but not only are you in the founder owner seat, you are also director of marketing, director of finance, director of all the things business, strategy, and team director. Like you're everything and everyone right now inside of like where you're at in the stage of business. So I think that your transition from practice manager, where you were looking through one lens,
Mhm.
that role, now you have an even different and deeper appreciation for all the hats that the owners are wearing. I think you had a really good idea because it seemed like you and Ashley had such an open and like honest relationship. But now it's like, some of the things that I think people struggle with is sometimes the money stuff, right? And so the weight that some of these responsibilities carry when you are the owner, and just making sure that you don't get stuck
Mhm.
in paralysis when, money might not be flowing like you thought it was, or like certain things that just happen or don't happen that affect your ability to move forward. So yeah, I think that you will bring such a different perspective that will help people even more than before.
Absolutely. And like I said, even with like the fail of working with the marketing company for this podcast, like everything happens for a reason, right? So, we had a really great like 4 years together, and I don't regret anything, but, I don't think I realized how much it was taxing my personal life, traveling back and forth to Virginia every other week and allowing that role and that part of my life to really be all consuming. So it's been really different. Even like my husband said, he's like, you know what? It's just different because you're home every night. Like I might not be home at the same time, but I'm just busy in a very completely different way that is slightly less stressing, but I was doing another podcast with an outside wealth agency earlier today, and we were talking about like the emotional roller coaster, which I'm sure we'll get into in another episode. But like, overall, it's been great. I'm very busy. I love to be busy, but it's just like a different kind of stress, which I'm sure you can relate to.
Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to be honest with you guys about was, again, our initial partnership with this marketing company to kick off our initial version of the podcast. Because for us, we were like, we know what it's like to run a business and all these things. And we were really looking for an easy solution that would simplify things to get us recorded and get the podcast out to you guys so that we can share value and just help you guys grow in business. But one of the things that we didn't necessarily do, or only found out through trial and error, was that they really weren't a good fit. And when I
Mhm.
say they weren't a good fit, they ended up closing down for really like wild and crazy, like we could never anticipate the reason why. And so after the shock of it all, just realizing like, wow, we didn't see that coming. We didn't have a clue that they were going to close down, but bringing to you guys that sometimes things that feel fast and easy aren't really the pathway to the longevity that you're looking for. And so probably even for you, Brandon, like as you open your med spa practice on your own, like vetting other partners that you have, like what companies you're going to work with. And I know that we have a certain standard at the Spa Business Coach, but like, how was that for you, especially after going through this this ride over the last 6 months? Or actually, no, it's been 10 months, hasn't it, since we initially were in conversation with the podcast company? Like, how has that affected your decision making, opening your med spa, and like who you're going to partner with?
Yeah, quite honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like we met like a year ago.
Yeah.
So we quickly came up with the idea, but it took forever for us to get an episode. And I think that we were trying to, we poured a lot of energy into trying to make it authentic, and it just wasn't hitting. And then I think we just kind of sacrificed our own personal ideas just to get it out because we were just tired of pissing around. And now we have the opportunity to redo that. But we're not going to beat a dead horse. We're doing what we're doing. We get an opportunity to redo it. But speaking to your question about, who I work with now. So obviously, I mean, I've been in the space full time from like a business perspective for almost 5 years now. And the relationships that I've cultivated have really helped to form Empower Aesthetics. Like, primarily, number one was legal, finding a great legal team to help educate me, because I'm in a CPOM state, corporate practice of medicine. That's a whole thing. That's another episode. Look, we're getting the rest of season 1 down pat right now. Talking about that stuff is like amazing. But like, I needed to figure all of that stuff out before anything ever happened. I met a lot of vendor partners and personally used products and injectables. So it was pretty easy for me to think about the services and what I wanted to do, because even though I'm not 100% in tune with my market needs, I got enough to be dangerous to get started. And obviously I've tweaked along the way and I still will, but it was just based on that experience. But, it's, if something doesn't feel good or it doesn't feel authentic, then I'm learning to listen to my gut and just not go with that. And I need to make those decisions based on facts, not feels all the time. Because sometimes, I think we like to be people pleasers just in general and want to do somebody a favor and work with them. But, that now is on my dollar. So I can't afford to be that gracious with everything. But, I'm just trying to get all the facts and make good, solid business decisions moving forward with like-minded partners.
Yeah. It's interesting because I remember when you first kind of told me about your idea to go out on your own. How long did it take you? Because whenever I think about dealing with lawyers, because I just went through my whole own journey with immigration lawyers, and that took months and months.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you when you were like, okay, I have the idea. So I want to think about like ideation to actual operation. So like in that process, there's other steps from ideation to operation.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone who's also thinking that, you know what, they're at a point in their career, whether they're still like in a hospital or in traditional medicine, or maybe they're in a position where they want to make that leap. How long did it take you from ideation to operation?
So, I mean, I've had the idea for a little while. Like, I would get it every once in a while and then think about how it would be possible, like physically and financially. But when I like took it seriously and found the right partners, and really for me, it was really understanding the legal team. I don't know why it took me, like, I'm a very visual person, and Marty Law Group came out with this like diagram that was like gorgeous. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's how it works. Because the long story short is I own the MSO, or managed service organization. My medical director owns the actual med spa. And there's, a lot of paperwork that dictates how the two work together. So once I understood that, because it just always boggled my mind, like, well, what if my medical director like takes all my money and runs away? Like, that was really like the kicker. But again, it was finding that like-minded person to work with and partner with, because I am not about this absentee medical director life at all. He's very involved. It took about really about 4 months. It was kind of just working towards the end of 2024, getting all of that paperwork done. And then like the holidays, I picked a very shitty time to start, to be honest, because the end of the year, still wrapping up things with, my former place of work and all that. Like, it couldn't have been a more terrible time. And then really ramping up in the beginning of Q1, my accountant really wanted to murder me. He's like, why do you guys do this like during tax season? Like, Q1 is terrible. You should never open a business. And I'm like, well, I can't help it. The heart wants what it wants. What do you want me to tell you? I do not know. But, it all worked out. But, we did a soft opening in January and did some training. And then I had an official grand opening in April. But just because of where I am, like, I mean, the weather was actually good that day, but like in February, nobody wants to come to an open house, right? Even though obviously it's not outside, but I just wanted it to be a little bit more of an experience, but also I needed to get my feet wet, like networking and making those relationships, because what's the point of having a grand opening if you have 20 people there? So I needed time to get established, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, but that's what I work towards every day. So
Yeah. And okay, so here was one thing that I felt was really ambitious about what you did. And I say the word ambitious not because it's positive or negative, it's just more like, wow, out of the gates, which
mhm,
is like I do med spa coaching, right? And it really depends on what the person wants or how fast they want to accelerate or, whatever. When I do coaching, that's just kind of like we focus on the individual. But you out of the gates had a team. And so that was an interesting move. I'd love to understand a little bit more about like why did you have a team right away? Because I think that this is super valuable for people who either get stuck in that like solopreneur mindset where they start the business and then they're the only one working in it for 1 year, 2 years, maybe even like 4 or 5 years. And
mhm.
it's okay because some people don't actually want a big business or they just want to have something on the side, which is totally fine. But some people actually get stuck in that solopreneur mindset and trajectory where they actually become too afraid to hire, too afraid to branch out, can't trust anyone. They have like mega issues, but you didn't do that. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about like, one, why did you want to have a team right away out of the gate? And
Mhm.
how's that going?
So, great question. So my initial like high level in my mind, pie in the sky idea for Empower was I was not going to be the lead injector. I honestly didn't want to be the face of it. In my mind, I thought that I would still do what I was doing, managing my friends' practices, and have two part-time injectors. So I didn't. This is going to sound terrible. Like I didn't care if it was like going to be like super profitable, which is should never be anyone's thought.
Like
But like,
so opposite of like my belief system where I'm like profit needs to be the first thing that you focus on. Not
right.
the thing, but it needs to be a very high priority.
And like as I kind of got further down, and again, 87 pieces kind of fell together, but so my practice is located within a dental office. And when I say that, people probably get real cringy, but the layout of my office, it's so the entire building that the dental practice is in is almost 10,000 square feet. So it's huge. It's an old, like sporting goods store that was subdivided into three. So we have the middle piece, but within that is that 10,000 square feet. So there had always been, when you walk in, there's a natural divide with the front desk. And to the left was absolutely nothing for the first 2 years. My buddy owns Modern Dental Associates, Dr. Josh Perry. And I always asked him, I'm like, what are you doing with this side? And he had ambitions of creating a more like concierge pediatric dental surgery type situation. And it just didn't come to fruition for one reason or another. So he had all these like empty rooms. And I was like, why don't you just give me a couple? Because when you walk in, it's not like you're walking into your dental practice to get Botox, which is like the antithesis of what I wanted. But it's just a natural divide that, okay, dental is to the right and I am to the left. So I already had a waiting room. I, by proxy, got front desk because the girls in the front are lovely and there was separation. So people could go to the left and there's a restroom and then there are 2 to 3 rooms that I have access to. So one of them is like super outfitted and branded, and I'm working on the other two, but I can just use them as needed. So the other two employees, I hate even saying that, but it's true. Um,
You could just call
they,
them team members, my two other team members.
I know, because they always say like he's my boss. I'm like, don't say that. That's weird. I don't like it's just weird. But I mean, I
It's
know
like
it's
it's
true.
true, but it's weird. But at the same time, it's like, but I'm still the boss.
It is. And like as I got closer to opening, so My number one injector was my friend Katie. So I've known Katie since we were baby nurses. And I hate to even say this out loud, but yes, we've known each other like 20 years. And we have the same birthday. And we're basically the same person with different parts. We're both Aries. We both have drive, ambition. And the key thing was she has always been looking to get into aesthetics for a number of years. And she actually listened to what I said. So whenever I get this question all the time, like, I want to get into aesthetics, how do I do it? And they said, well, it's very tough. It's not easy. It's not a typical job that you just drop off a resume and hope for rainbows and stars. She invested in herself. She started building her resume, and she went and did a weekend like AAFE certified course, because that's really like the only avenue, especially where I'm at now. It's not densely populated with a ton of med spas. Some pockets are, but majority it's not oversaturated. And there's not that many learning opportunities. So she listened to me and took the course, went out and put her resume out there, and still really didn't get anything. So as I kind of got closer to this idea and realizing that it could actually happen, I thought she's going to be perfect, because I'm not going to be open like 40 hours a week. At least that wasn't my intention. But
Not yet.
she still had the drive to put herself out there, to still build her resume, to kind of treat the first couple months like a residency, because I couldn't afford to pay her. So, like, that to me says, I'm hungry, I'm eager, and I will do whatever it takes. And as I got closer and realizing that this was going to be my full-time, like, job, and this is going to be my new like chapter in life. So as I said, I'm in a dental practice. I got worried that I might get too busy. So one thing that the dental practice doesn't do is TMJ talks. They never talk about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking around with half a molar because I let mine go too long. Like, what if I get all these people? So then that fear crept in, and I was like, well, I need somebody else. So that was like number two in my motivation to have another staff member. And then Jenna, my other injector, was kind of in the same ballpark with Katie. And I've known her for a number of years, old ICU nurse, around the same age. And I say that because I feel like the 20 somethings of this generation, there's another episode, their work ethic troubles me greatly.
I think
In
it
their
troubles
outlook on life.
everyone greatly. Like, I think that that's an entire season. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I mean, they're great with social media, but
Yeah.
other than that, some things terrify me.
Unfortunately, where you have to be in person providing a service like human to human in real life, in real time, I can't say that, the stories are that they accelerate in that.
I agree. I agree 100%. And, she did the same exact thing. So she went and she tried to partner with another local provider. And in the back of my mind, I was like, if you have to sign anything, why don't you talk to me first? Because I wanted her. And so that's how Jenna kind of came along too. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, like, sort of training residency, call it what you want, with one, I don't want to like repeat it again in a couple months with another. So that's how I kind of got them. And I like plainly laid out expectations in the beginning, and, told them what was possible and what we were building. And they're just like, they're down for it. And I really appreciated that, because they know how much like personal sweat equity and financial equity, because I'm bankrolling this whole thing myself. And they know what's at risk, and they are very gratuitous of that. They don't take it for granted at all. They're not greedy. They're very appreciative. So it's just been like kind of a natural fit. So that is the very long-winded answer to your question.
No, I love it, because I was curious and I hadn't asked you, but it makes sense because they are employees, but they
Hmm.
really came on board with the condition that like this is almost like an apprenticeship type of role where
Yes.
you are going to learn on the job from me. You're not really going to touch any patients. You have to get the expertise and the practice, and you have to start to work toward your mastery, which I also agree. I just find like I was that person when I was their age. So I love an ambitious person who's like young and hungry. But the thing, one of the things that you said was like they were just down to learn, right? And that's so hard to come by. I know a lot of people struggle with that. And the thing that I have to remind people of is if you're in business and you're trying to grow in any capacity and you have a team, the people on your team need to have a growth mindset. They cannot have a fixed mindset. The only time your business can afford to have a fixed mindset is
Hmm.
when you've reached a certain level of predictable revenue or predictable growth, where you know that you're going to be very cyclical in terms of income and revenue and profit. And you only need some of the team to have the growth mindset to, grow those like slow notches upward. Whereas everyone else is kind of the even Steven or like the steady Betty, right? Where
Hmm.
they're just very reliable. They don't need to grow or expand, but they're really those predictable people. But at the
Hmm.
beginning, like where you're at, you absolutely can only afford to hire people who also have a growth mindset because it's like you're in growth mode all the time. Like for the next 18 months to 2 years will be mega, mega growth. So anyone that you're bringing on the team has to encompass and align with a growth mindset 1,000%. Otherwise, it's like, even if they get too fixed in the sense of, oh, well, at my old job, we did it this way, or I used to do it this way. So I think I know, or I think we should do it my way.
Hmm.
Honestly, that stunts your growth and it holds you back. They become a roadblock. And then you just have to obviously remove the roadblock, which again, so I always like to remind people, especially if you're in a mega growth stage, you need growth mindset people. So it sounds like you have picked the right people and you're all in alignment and understanding of what's like what's at task here, what are we focused on, and also, as you mentioned, what's at risk. I think that
Absolutely.
also matters mega, that they obviously respect you, but they're getting a type of education from you that would have cost them tens of thousands of dollars and years.
Oh,
Years.
100%. And I want to throw out there that I will completely be I always say I'm the Anna Delvey of aesthetics. I probably need to stop saying that. But I mean, I don't know anything. I am still learning and growing with them right alongside. I have a lot more business experience, but I am still learning everything and all the things. So, so far in the few months that we've been open, I have spent at least $10,000 in training right alongside with them for my medical director. So, like, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. So, that's something that we'll just continue to, compound as we move on. But no, it's been great. It's going great. It's incremental growth, and we'll allude to some other challenges maybe in the next episode. We'll talk about some of the things. Your first 3 months. Let's look back and review, and get into that. But I think that I don't know about you. I'm so glad to get back on this little wagon here and get the Injector Business Blueprint restarted. We're giving it CPR. We've pushed epi. We have a pulse. We are good to go, baby.
Yeah, no, same. And again, like now that we're in a completely different space, like I'm in an actual different space, you're in an actual different space, and we really now can actually hold space for sharing our experiences, bringing value to you guys, and, helping you sidestep, honestly, the real like dramas and mistakes and like just like minefields that we've had to navigate over the last several years of our careers. We're super pumped to be back and helping you guys with that and giving you direction, getting your feedback. So I think that's it, right? We're gonna wrap
Mhm.
this up. And it was a great first but kind of second hello. And
Yeah. Welcome back and hello.
in case you didn't know we were here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for now. And we will see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Injector's Business Blueprint, where we turn chaos into clarity. If you found value in today's episode, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and share with another Injector or Medspa owner who's ready for real talk. Check us out on Instagram at Injector BIZ Blueprint. Until then, stay blessed to be stressed.